What if I told you that the greatest quarterback of all time thinks today's QBs just aren't as smart as they used to be? Tom Brady, the 7-time Super Bowl champion, the man who defined 2 decades of NFL dominance, believes the quarterback position has actually regressed mentally since the day he entered the league back in 2000. In a league obsessed with stats, speed, and highlight plays, Brady says the brainpower behind the position might be slipping away. So what exactly does he mean? And is he right? Today, we're diving into Brady's bold critique of modern quarterbacking and what it says about the future of the NFL. Tom Brady isn't just another retired player with hot takes. He's the gold standard of quarterbacking. 23 seasons, 3 MVPs, and a resume longer than some franchises' entire histories. When he talks about quarterback play, the football world listens. Few players have ever studied the game with the same intensity or executed it at such a consistently elite level. For Brady, quarterbacking was never just about throwing a perfect spiral. It was about diagnosing defenses, controlling the tempo, and turning mental preparation into physical dominance on Sundays. Recently, on The Herd with Colin Cowherd, Brady opened up about how different the quarterback role looks today compared to when he first took the field in 2001 with the New England Patriots. His comments weren't about arm strength or athleticism. They were about the mental side of the position. According to Brady, today's quarterbacks aren't being trained or challenged to think at the same level. Brady's exact words, he said the quarterback position isn't as mentally developed as it was when I entered the NFL. In other words, quarterbacks today are less experienced at reading defenses, less trusted to make their own adjustments, and more reliant on simplified schemes and coaches feeding them answers. Back in the early 2000s, young QBs were expected to learn, adapt, and grow through trial by fire. Mistakes weren't just tolerated, they were part of the development process. Brady himself lived this reality. Drafted in the 6th round, he had to earn everything, often by absorbing brutal hits, studying endless film, and learning to adjust in the middle of a game. Today, teams protect their investments. Coaches design systems that minimize risk, and defenses aren't allowed to punish quarterbacks the way they once could. This, Brady argues, has created a generation of passers who might be more athletic, but far less prepared to handle the mental chess match that defined earlier eras. To understand his point, let's rewind to the NFL that Brady entered. In the early 2000s, the league was far more physical. Quarterbacks took bone-rattling hits. Middle linebackers disguised coverages with far more freedom. Corners were allowed to play rougher in man coverage, jamming receivers with a physicality you rarely see today. Young quarterbacks back then had no choice but to toughen up mentally. They had to understand complex defensive disguises, take command of the playbook, and process everything in real time while a 260-pound pass rusher closed in. You either figured it out, or you didn't last long in the league. Brady argues that this crucible of pressure forced quarterbacks to grow sharper and smarter. It wasn't just about surviving physically, it was about thriving mentally. Great quarterbacks like Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, and even Brett Favre had to master the mental side just to survive. They had to be students of the game in a way that Brady feels is missing now. Now fast forward to today's NFL. Rule changes have drastically tilted the field toward offensive safety and efficiency. Roughing the passer penalties are stricter. Defenseless receiver rules protect throws over the middle. Even practice time is different. Young quarterbacks simply don't get the same live rep experience against complex defenses that their predecessors did. On top of that, offensive schemes have been streamlined. Many coaches design plays that require minimal post-snap reading. Quick throws, scripted options, and heavy reliance on athleticism are the norm. The quarterback doesn't always have to diagnose a disguised coverage, because the ball is out in under 2 seconds. Brady sees this as a double-edged sword. Yes, it makes offenses more explosive. Yes, it protects young talent from flameouts. but it also means fewer quarterbacks develop the deep mental mastery that separates good from legendary. Brady didn't just criticize schemes. He also pointed out that quarterbacks today live in a safer environment than ever before. And ironically, that safety might be stunting their growth. In his words, "When I played, defenses had more leeway, and quarterbacks had to figure things out faster. Now the game is structured to keep quarterbacks comfortable." That comfort, Brady argues, robs players of the hard lessons that come from adversity. If you're never truly under siege, physically or mentally, how do you learn to master the chaos of football at the highest level? For Brady, being uncomfortable was part of the journey. That's how he went from an overlooked sixth rounder to a dynasty-defining champion. Of course, not everyone agrees with Brady. Supporters of today's quarterbacks would argue that the game is simply evolving. Modern passers like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts display creativity and athleticism that older generations never saw. The position is more dynamic than ever before, and quarterbacks are asked to do things physically that would have been unheard of 20 years ago. They'd also point out that mental toughness can come in different forms. Reading defenses is one skill, but commanding high-octane offenses, executing complex run-pass options, or improvising in broken plays requires its own type of intelligence. Mahomes, for example, may not run the game like Peyton Manning did, but his ability to see possibilities on the fly is a form of genius in itself. So the question is, are today's QBs less mentally developed, or just mentally developed differently? Why does Brady see it this way? Part of it is simply his background. He was a sixth-round pick who clawed his way into greatness by mastering every detail of the mental game. He didn't have elite arm strength or blazing speed. His edge came from preparation, film study, and execution under pressure. For Brady, football has always been a mental chess match. So when he looks at today's quarterbacks relying more on athletic ability and less on mastery of disguise and detail, he sees a decline. It's not bitterness, it's perspective. Brady's critique isn't just nostalgia. It raises real questions about the future of quarterbacking. Will the NFL keep producing quarterbacks who rely on athletic talent over mental acuity? Will the game continue simplifying itself to fit younger players? And what happens when those players face playoff defenses that do disguise coverages and force adjustments? The truth is, the NFL might be heading toward a split. Some quarterbacks will dominate with raw talent and simplified schemes. Others, the rare ones who embrace the grind of film study and situational mastery, will stand out as true elite minds. We've actually seen cycles like this before. In the 1980s, defenses dominated until rule changes opened the passing game. In the 1990s, great offensive minds like Bill Walsh reshaped how QBs thought about efficiency. Then came the 2000s, where players like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady elevated the mental side to historic levels. Now, perhaps we're in another transition, one where the pendulum has swung towards speed, protection, and athleticism. The question is whether the next wave of quarterbacks will bring the mental side back to the forefront. If there's one lesson hidden in Brady's critique, it's this: young quarterbacks can't rely on athleticism forever. The league always adjusts, defenses always adapt, and when speed and improvisation hit their limits, the QBs who master the mental side will be the ones still standing. That's the message Brady seems to be sending. Don't get comfortable. Don't let easy schemes and favorable rules trick you into thinking you've arrived. The true test of greatness will always be in the mind. So, is Tom Brady right? Are quarterbacks today less mentally developed than those from his era? Maybe. Or maybe the position is simply evolving in ways even the greatest can't fully appreciate. What's undeniable is this: Brady's words shine a spotlight on how dramatically the NFL has changed in just 2 decades. From bone-crushing hits to quarterback-friendly rules, from complex defensive disguises to lightning-quick passing schemes, The role of the QB is in constant flux. But one thing remains the same. The greatest quarterbacks in any era are the ones who master both the body and the mind. What do you think? Is Brady just an old school legend longing for the past? Or does he have a point about the mental decline of modern quarterbacks? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love deep dives into the NFL's biggest debates, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more content just like this.